My name's Arnold Possick. I graduated from USC with a dual degree in gerontology and health administration in 1994. And my position at the Los Angeles Jewish Home for the Aging is Vice President of Community Programs and Corporate Compliance.
Tell me what you do in the job as Vice President.
I have 3 or 4 areas of responsibility. One area is operational. As we develop new community-based programs, I oversee those programs. The second area is in strategic planning, long-term planning for the Los Angeles Jewish Home for the Aging. And the third area is in corporate compliance. Those are the 3 areas that I'm involved in.
Tell me a little bit more about the first area.
Well, the home, the organization is an old organization. It's about 95 years old. And for the first 92 years of its history, it really focused on facility-based care. That is, care given to the elderly population in facilities, whether they be nursing homes, board and care facilities, that type of care. 3 or 4 years ago, during the strategic planning process, senior management and the board began to realize that more and more care is being given out in the community, in people's private homes or in off-site locations. And the home decided at that point to develop programs that went beyond the boundaries of its own campuses. So since that point, we've developed community clinics. We have a hospice agency which we've developed. A home health agency is currently under development. And we have other programs that reach more deeply into the community than our own campuses do.
Arnie, what are you developing now?
Well, we're still focusing on developing hospice, but we're also beginning to focus on a home health agency. Just to give you some sense of the challenges that are faced in this type of endeavor, right now our biggest challenge in hospice is finding registered nurses to be case managers. As you know, there's a national shortage and very great shortage in California for registered nurses. So that actually is our biggest challenge currently. It's not in getting patients, it's actually in finding the registered nurses who can care for those patients. To give you a sense of what my day is like, I try to spend the first half of every day in the hospice office before returning to the corporate office. And right now my focus is in developing a program to attract more registered nurses. We're having a campaign to attract them. We've developed a referral bonus for employees that currently work at the Jewish Home. If they know of anyone and recommend a registered nurse who comes to work for us, they get $2,500. In addition, we have a sign-on bonus for the registered nurses. We're developing a campaign that will go in journals that are read by nurses to advertise these sign-on bonuses and to advertise our hospice agency. We're working with executive recruiters, so I will give them a call on a daily basis to see where we are. And we're even developing a little it's cross between a social gathering and a little conference specifically targeting registered nurses. So that's the focus for the moment.
Arnie, speaking of nurses, I know the Jewish Home has just started a nursing school. Did you play a role in that?
Indirectly, I did. As vice president, I'm part of the senior management team, and even though the responsibilities that go with that are not written down in one's job description, there are a lot of responsibilities that go with that. So that for any major development at the Jewish home, all of the officers at some level get involved. So certainly during the very initial discussion of whether or not we would have a nursing school, helping to develop some of the first budgets, I was involved at that level, yes. But it's really being developed more by the Vice President of Human Resources.
How did you choose a career in gerontology?
I think it came from two areas. I was very close to the grandparents that were living at the time I was growing up. One of my grandfathers lived with us as I grew up. So that created a certain ease and liking for the elderly. To me, it's very natural to live in a household where you have people of all ages. And the second component really comes from my experience living overseas. I lived in a traditional Asian culture for many years overseas. And I found that within the confines of a traditional culture, that the elderly had a place in that culture, a very meaningful place. And I was impressed by the vibrancy and the happiness of the older person. For me, the quality of life of an older person is very reflective of the society in which they've grown up, because in a sense that is the end product of living in that culture. And when I sort of compared this to what my experience back in the United States, I felt that there was a lot of room for improvement, and I wanted to be a part of that improvement. So that really was the basic motivating factor.
Arnie, how did you choose your present job? How did you come to work for the home?
Two things attracted me. This organization is an older organization, so it's stable. At the same time, it had its new CEO, Molly Forrest, seemed to be a very dynamic person. And I tend to have an entrepreneurial side. So I was interested in the CEO's interest in really developing new programs, and I felt this was going to be a very dynamic organization. Personally, I love to create new things. Where there was nothing before, now there is something new. That's the kind of thing that excites me. And so that's how I really decided. I thought there was a lot of opportunity here.
When you graduated from USC, what was your first job?
My first job was with a medical group called Greater Valley Medical Group. I was the director of senior services. So this is this was a medical group with about 17 locations. They had about 55,000 patients, and about 10% of those were 65 years of age or older. And they had no one focusing on that age group. They were getting the same care as everyone else. So they hired me to develop new programs that focused on the care given to people 65 years of age or older.
What are the challenges that you have in your current job?
There are a lot of challenges. The long-term care industry is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. I've heard that It's second only to the nuclear, the atomic regulatory industry. So it's very highly regulated. One needs to be cognizant of all the rules and regulations for every enterprise, whether it's skilled nursing facility, board and care, the community clinics that we have, the home health agency, the hospice agency. Each has its own set of regulations, and it is challenging to follow all those regulations and still have a financially viable organization. So it's a daily challenge.
Arnie, what makes you feel good about your job each day when you come home?
Everything we do is for the good of the people we serve. So what's there to feel bad about? I mean, you do the best you can. You come home at night, you know that you've either given care to someone who is, for example, with hospice, we're providing care to patients who are approaching the end of their life. We're helping families get through that very difficult time. It's hard work, but you feel good about it at the end. In our community clinics, we provide a very high level of care to our residents. We offer primary care in 18 different specialties. So people are getting an extremely high level of care, and one feels good about that.
How has your training in gerontology helped you with your work?
The training in gerontology has been very, very helpful. It gives you a background to approach the various responsibilities you have, whether it be the psychology, the physiology, the sociology of aging. All of those things are relevant to working with the elderly population. Research methodology has come in very helpful. For example, in my first job at Greater Valley Medical Group, we were developing some innovative programs, and we needed to develop methodologies to test whether those programs were effective or not. A research methodology came in. It was very helpful. I do think it's also helpful to, if you have an elective possibility to take a course in basic accounting, that can be helpful because one is going to be dealing with budgets no matter what you do, and it's good to be able to understand what a spreadsheet is. In terms of the psychology of aging, it's very important to know the kinds of issues that a person faces in their 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. And those courses were helpful to understand that. The physiology of aging, I'm not a clinician, so I don't need to provide I couldn't provide clinical services, but we have over 45 physicians who work in our clinics. And it is helpful to have some idea of what they're talking about, having gone through that course.
Would you recommend a career in gerontology to others?
Yes, I would. I do think it's important to specialize in some area. Certainly a dual degree program is one way of doing that. Otherwise, focusing with your electives, getting some expertise in a more vocational aspect of the aging industry, whether it be health administration, law, social work, whatever that might be.
Do you foresee an increased need for gerontologists?
It's well documented fact that the population is aging quite dramatically, especially with the baby boomers coming of age now, and the need is very dramatic, and it will only increase in the future.
Do your peers at work appreciate your degree in gerontology?
They do. After a little bit of explanation, when people see MSG after my name, they do sometimes have an inquisitive look. But it's easily explained, and I believe that it does add an added level of respect for what you do.
Arnie, what are the ethical challenges that you've faced in your career?
Working with the older population, especially here at the Jewish Home, we work with a very elderly population. The average age of people we work with here is 90, 92 years of age. So it's on the upper end of the elderly. And because of that, we're working with very frail, vulnerable people. And with that comes a huge responsibility to make sure that people are not being taken advantage of in any way. Some of the challenges that have come up, I'll give you examples. For example, what do you do if you have a resident living at the Jewish Home who has given responsibility for their finances over to, say, a son, and not in any formal way, but just said, look after my finances. And the son has not been responsible in paying the resident's bills. So here you have possibly someone 90 years of age who has money, but whose money has been misused by the son and cannot pay their bills. What do? You don't want to throw the person out of your home. You don't want to punish them for the sins of the son. At the same time, the charitable care that we provide really needs to be provided to people who don't have any money. And there was money in a case like this. So that's one challenge that you face. Other challenges, for example, I'll be very concrete here. What do you do in a case where you're caring for a hospice patient at home? Now, these are things that don't come up very often. I mean, most people are very ethical, but it does happen. And these are real challenges. What do you do if you're caring for a hospice patient in their home and you find that, and the caregiver is a family member, and you suspect that the medication, such as the pain management medication, is not being given to the patient, but may be taken by the caregiver, him or herself. How do you handle a situation like that? It's a real challenge. Do you suggest that the patient leave their home where they want to be and go into a skilled nursing facility where they do not want to be, but where you'll be sure they'll get proper care? Do you try and work with the family in the home, knowing that you have a certain liability if the caregiver does not give the medication as they're supposed to be giving? These are the kinds of issues that come up.
Did graduation from the Leonard Davis School of Gerontology improve your chances of getting a good job?
Yes, it did. Especially I was looking in Southern California. The Leonard School is very, very well known. And just seeing that name on one's resume makes a huge difference. Everyone knows USC, and it really does help. It opens doors.
Did getting a graduate degree in gerontology increase your potential earning power?
I believe it's probably tripled, doubled, somewhere between 2.5 to 3 times what I would have earned without a degree.
Is this a good field for others to enter?
It's a great field. There's a lot of opportunity it's a growing field. It's a great field to enter.
Arnie, where did you take your internship?
I did an internship with the California Lutheran Homes. It was my internship was in the corporate office of an organization that had skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, board and care facilities, and social service organizations. It was very, very helpful. That's where the rubber meets the ground, so to speak. That is where you begin to actually see how the concepts that you've learned about play in the real world.
In choosing an internship, what do you recommend to a student?
It's helpful if you have some idea of whether you're interested in long-term care, whether you're interested in more the medical side of things. So you might want to do something in health administration, possibly within a hospital or within a medical group if you can find that. If your interest maybe is more on the legal side, to try and do some type of internship with a law firm.
We have a master's in long-term care administration. Do you think that would be helpful? It combines both gerontology courses and business courses.
That would be excellent. Absolutely. I think it's a perfect combination for getting involved in long-term care.